an anechoic chamber type deal thing.
Yeah, well, nobody's got that in their home, but
Right.
Someone might.
Yeah, if you line your walls with foam, you could tell what dead silence is.
Yeah, you put
It
like
helps.
3 pillows on each side of your head and you bury yourself under a mattress.
We got a new gnome.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
This is like, I guess we'd call it a flower child gnome.
Gnomey McGnome Face
Yeah.
2.
Like I know, like now, like there's a lot of wildflowers coming up. Like I got a little garden at home, and those seeds we planted months ago are finally turning out to be yay high.
Oh,
know,
wildflowers.
Colorful. Yeah, you get some at home too.
Yes, I have some as well.
Yeah, they're finally showing up.
Yes.
Yeah, takes
Kind
a
of looks
while.
like a mess.
Yeah, I thought they'd grow faster, but they didn't really.
No.
Just take the seeds. And,
Yeah, it's easy.
yeah.
Just need to water them.
Nice decoration.
Uh-huh.
Too bad it's all gonna freaking die in the fall. But,
Yeah.
but anyway, I guess they might come back. Nah.
No,
I
I don't
you
think
can
so.
put new ones. It's cheap enough. Anyway, yeah, new gnome. So he's here to join us, and and on the topic of fields and flowers and outdoors is noise. And I don't know, when it was a week or two ago, I did a video myself on making measurements and the ambient noise level in our room, and that we have a quiet booth for our test head and all that. And we're thinking, well, maybe we should discuss like since the test head's affected by noise in the room, how's our listening? How does our music listening to things, speakers, headphones, affected by noise, ambient noise in your home environment or wherever you live, wherever you're listening, And we know, like, in doing shows, trade shows, that's probably worst case where you got 80-some dB of noise level, right? But at home, I mean, depends where you live. You live in a big city. You live in a country.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that it's a little complicated, like everything, because noise is additive in nature typically. And what I mean by that is you don't really notice it more often than not. It's not like people are honking horns out your window all day, every day in most
New
places.
York City, they are.
They do, yeah.
Right, but you would expect that. Like that's pretty clear cut that you're going to hear that through your headphones most of the time.
Horns.
If you have open back headphones, you're going to hear
Horns
that
to the
stuff,
left,
right? However, what people don't notice is all the noises that are cumulative, right? It's a little less obvious to people because you get used to it, because you really can't escape it. In most everyday life, you really can't get away from the 40-some dB or so of background noise. And even in the quietest part of your room, in the quietest part of your home, maybe it's a couple dB quieter, but it's not really that quiet. There's always outside ambient noises, and you kind of adapt and get used to it. And you only really notice it when you go into a room that's very, very quiet. It's intentionally made quiet.
know,
so
like-
an anechoic chamber type deal thing.
Yeah, well, nobody's got that in their home, but
Right.
Someone might.
Yeah, if you line your walls with foam, you could tell what dead silence is.
Yeah, you put
It
like
helps.
3 pillows on each side of your head and you bury yourself under a mattress.
Actually, there's a way to do that. You go to a department store and they have a whole aisle of pillows.
Yeah.
That's the quietest
Yeah.
part in the store.
Yeah, you
You'll
just
actually
shove your head
notice
in the
it.
pillows.
Yeah, the bedding section.
Yeah, right. A lot of linen, like it's
Yeah.
just everything around you is
Yeah.
like plush.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty big deal. Though.
Yeah.
It's-
That would be one way to do it. I know
that
like
should be
Kohl-
everyone's homework.
Yeah, right. Go to
It
Kohl's.
is very noticeable.
Yeah. Go to the pillow department in the department store. Just check it out. But yeah, so that brings us to the topic is how, if you were able to do that, what would that sound like? And what would your music sound like in a quieter location? And I know, like with speakers, in a room, particularly because you're in a room and the room noise is going to matter with speakers, right? Especially if you're not listening at 130 dB levels. People tend to like to listen at night. And I mean, part of that is the electrical grid tends to get quieter at night because industry's not running, things are being turned off at night. You tend to have a higher voltage at night.
Yeah, later at night in particular.
Yeah, like midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you literally get a blacker background out of your music in the room. You hear more low-level, small details because the electrical noise is dropped and your ambient noise is dropped. It tends to be the family sleeping, the kids are sleeping, the dog's laying down. Nobody's driving by.
That's
Think
a big
about,
one, yeah.
You
don't
about
really realize it until,
Yeah.
if you stand outside at like 1 a.m, it's like, man, it's quiet out here.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's normally loud, but it's noticeable.
Actually, that's a tricky one, though, because I think most people would hear what you're saying And if they're not experienced, they would think that you sound like a crazy person.
Oh, is it crazy?
Sometimes you do.
That's
though.
quieter at night.
No.
Oh.
That like these things, electrical noise and load on the grid and stuff like
Oh,
that matters.
wow.
Because it can.
Yeah.
It can, not always.
That's true.
But it's a difficult thing to assess. I think the easiest way to kind of like get a vague impression of how big of a difference this could be is if you have something that's fairly quiet, but you know the volume of sound it makes. And then you take it outside in the middle of the day where, you know, you have people, neighbors, 10 buildings over making noise outside their house, people cutting the lawn way distant and stuff like that. And all that background noise kind of drowns out this noise. Then you hear the same noise, same level, you know, your phone playing a track set to a certain volume. You hear that 2 a.m. outside. It's totally different.
Yeah.
The noises that you thought were subtle are way louder more often than not. Like you'll hear crickets chirping at a significant distance in most environments late at night.
I think it's two different effects. Like, you know, in a room environment, like listening to speakers or even open back headphones or any headphone in a room environment, I think, you know, the ambient noise, sure, even what's going on in the house and all that is affecting you. However, you know, that's one effect, right? The electrical noise, you can look at it a different kind of way. You know, and this is duplicated by people using really good line conditioners. I'm talking stuff that's the latest tech that's out there is pretty freaking good. And, you know, they've managed to figure out how to filter out this electrical noise. And so you can duplicate the equivalent of the night power with a conditioner type thing, right? Or proper conditioning. And of course, you get over filter too. I've seen people put too much filtration on it now. All of a sudden, believe it or not, it goes the wrong way. And you start to dull the shit out of things. You could actually it's just too much passive components in line with the product. And for whatever reason, that's the way it goes. But bottom line is that, no, I mean, you know, I've seen and heard that this done during the day. So it electrical noise presents itself differently, but it's still noise that masks low-level detail.
I guess naturally you end up listening to music though at night because that's just how it works. You're working during the day, so
Right.
I guess you normally don't run into a daytime situation.
Yeah, unless you work
Weekend.
like second shift or third shift.
Weekend.
Yeah.
I think what I'm getting at is these things can be a bit more profound than I would gather most people would estimate. Because inevitably it seems obvious that, well, how much can noise matter? I'll just hear the noise is what people probably think. But the difference is the noise isn't really detectable because it's more or less constant, steady, and especially if you hear it over and over because it's the ambient noise in your environment, you kind of ignore it. Your brain tends to not really even notice it. It doesn't point it out to you. So to you, that's just your background level. Now, that's nothing. And little do you know, when the noise actually isn't there, there's a lot of stuff that maybe your system was able to produce that you couldn't really detect before because the noise made it so that that level was kind of just like truncated, right? Anything below this certain noise is now considered garbage by your brain and ignored.
I know I used to have a room in the basement in our first house, you know, and it's probably pretty quiet underground. I never measured it.
You got to be pretty far underground.
Yeah, but you're more affected by people walking upstairs above the first floor. But when everyone's sleeping in that, it's pretty quiet down in the underground.
Sometimes you got mechanical equipment and stuff down there though. That's
yeah,
running,
that's
so
true. Yeah, but
basements aren't really always that quiet.
Yes, but sans that running, yeah, you're pretty quiet down there. So I mean that helps. And you know, living out in the country, people say you know they live out. There's no traffic. There's no airplanes. There's no nothing. It's just fields of grass.
Well, it's true. You go out in the middle of nowhere. You look up in the sky at night. You see way more. And
well,
like
light pollution, just like noise
it's exactly
pollution.
the same thing. You don't notice the light pollution. You really don't. You look up, you think it's dark,
Right.
but it turns out it gets a lot darker when you move further away from all the sources of light.
Well, that's kind of the same. Actually, we could use that as an analogy because it's true. You know, you get to a certain point at night, maybe 10 p.m., 10:30, where the sun's thoroughly gone.
Right.
And you could see more detail out of the stars. You can actually see more of a twinkle out of them where at 9-ish or so,
Yeah.
I mean, they're talking in the summer or whatever, but as you know, the sun's down, it's dark, you see the stars, but they're dull. And as 10:30, 11, as the night gets deeper and the sky basically gets blacker, now you see more subtle detail in the twinkling of the stars. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah. And it's the same with audio.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You drop out that, you know, that where in this case that's the light, but we're talking about noise.
Yeah, all your background.
You're trying to go black.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when you're dealing with something that's a constant, Like you have audio being emitted and it's this level, but you have noise that's above it. Well, you're not going to really hear this. It's going to be very, very difficult to hear it, right? And so when you look up in the sky and the stars and whatnot are only so bright, it needs to be very, very dark for you to be able to vibrantly see these things. So if you're in a bright city, even at night, you're not going to see it, right? But you move out middle of nowhere, you go for a long drive, you look up, everything looks way brighter up there. It didn't get brighter, just looks brighter. You notice it more. Same thing with audio.
Well, I know, I sit right underneath my projector,
Yeah.
and like late at night, I could hear the fan on it, and it's constant, and it's like 28 dB or something. But like if I have it on the day, you don't notice it at all. But at night, you're like, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But it's really quiet.
Right.
But it's enough. But
and
this is like 1 a.m. then,
Yeah. So I mean, it matters. Ambient matters, and it changes the way you hear things. And for some people, it might make a difference. Think about it, in how much they appreciate better systems. Come to think of it, because if you do have a rather loud ambient, then you're not hearing the subtleties that the better systems are capable of. It'll mask it. The ambient will mask it. So it's same with speakers and headphones. So yeah, it's something to consider. Go try your system in a different house.
Yes.
Go to a
Drive
quiet
out to
place.
the middle of the country,
Yeah.
run it on an inverter in a parking lot.
Put in it. Get the app on your iPhone or whatever phone you got for measuring noise level in dB. I mean, they're usually kind of close.
They're in the region.
It'll
of
give you a
accurate,
relative level.
Yeah.
You sit it there and it'll just give you an average.
Close enough.
For 50 dB. I mean, it's averaging. Even better, the apps that show you the actual way,
plot it.
the frequency response. Yeah, what's going on in the room, so you could see the noise where it's really affecting what you're hearing. I mean, like I know we've done it on airplanes, and like below 100 hertz is around 100 hertz is it's a disaster with jet engine noise, and so.
So I was thinking, does like in EVs, you don't have a constant engine drone or anything, so does things sound better?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, actually, no.
Yeah.
I think so. Because you don't need to, depends on the person. You don't need to crank the volume up as much to hear it.
True.
And I think that tends to be preferential because I notice, especially after a long drive, in a louder vehicle, you'll notice the radio may be really loud at the end of the drive. And you'll notice this after you get off the highway, you stop.
Yeah.
And you look at the volume level you're at and like, oh, that was actually really loud, but I was getting away with that to try to drown out all the ambient
Well, not only that,
noise.
I've noticed when I was in your cars, the Teslas, that you hear more of the tire noise. That's what you
Right.
hear.
That's like all you
That's
hear.
all you hear, yeah.
Wind and tire.
Which, there's no way to get rid of that. It is what it is. But
And it's funny because you would think, oh, the tires are louder in an EV or something. That's what
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would notice because,
Right.
especially in my car, I had snow tires on, and then I had studded snow tires, non-studded snow tires, all seasons, and summer tires, and the difference between all of them is profound.
Oh,
Any
yeah.
passenger could tell, oh, there's a difference immediately, right? And you don't really notice a difference in sound in tires a lot of times in other cars.
Well, I noticed that I experienced this years ago. I got, I think it was a Lexus, the ES300. This was years ago. And the Lexus was like stupid quiet. It was really damped. It was quiet in the car. You'd close the door and it's like, how you notice like when you're outside and you get in the car, close the door, and all of a sudden, bam, it's
Right.
like,
It's
like
holy
putting on
shit, I don't hear
noise-canceling
anything.
headphones.
Yeah, right. And it's like, wow. And then I was driving it. I had it for like a year. And then I heard this little rattle coming from under the dash somewhere. I'm like, and it was quiet, but I'm like, it was annoying, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And so I figure I'm going to Google to see what people talk about rattling with the Lexus, and and I'm Googling, and some people say, yeah, I noticed it, and some people, you hear this. But in the end, what I determined was that it was the fact that the damn car was so quiet inside that you wouldn't, like in a Jeep or something, you probably would have never heard that little rattle.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be masked by all the road noise, the tire noise, right? But this dead quiet thing, and there's something interior-wise that's just moving a little bit, and you notice it because it's so freaking quiet that it's more noticeable, which from a design standpoint, if you think engineering, wow, you got to really watch how tight nuts and bolts are in that car.
Yeah.
Because now you're noticing every little problem, as the car ages. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You hear it more.
And that's a curious thing because what that produces is a bit of bias. And you get this in audio too, it's no different. And people complain all the time about squeaks and rattles and stuff like that. Interior build quality, they call it with Teslas. They say it's typically quite poor, which is a confusing way to word it because if you look at the panels and how they're attached, fabricated, and stuff like that, they're made like they are in every other car.
Like everything, I'm sure they're getting better. You know,
Well, yeah,
the
sure,
assembly
you hope.
procedures.
But that's kind of
process.
irrelevant with what I'm getting at here. The
Yeah.
thing is, the panel's interior design is made the same way as all the other cars, and it's curious that people go out of the way to say that it's really trash in a Tesla. But it's the same way as your Toyota or
Right.
whatever, your Chevy.
Well, those things
The panels
rattle,
are
too.
Same plastics,
Don't they?
made by a different, like it could be made by a similar or the same company in the same manner with the same clip, same
Yeah.
attachment mechanism.
Well, what-
but it's more pronounced because the car's quieter. And so people then think, oh, they squeak and bang and rattle more.
Well, get
But-
in a 10-year-old Chevy and see what that sounds like. You know, one of the
Yeah.
cheaper models. You know, after it's been agencies, you'll find
Well, it has nothing
there's
to do with-
noises coming from every direction.
Yes,
you know,
I'm
the
not-
doors, the windows, the freaking dash, the back.
This has nothing to do with the brand of the,
The
vehicle. Or anything.
suspension.
It's just
Yeah.
it shows you how people can perceive things to be
Yeah.
variable, right? It's because if you have a vehicle that intrinsically is oftentimes quieter than another vehicle, issues can be exaggerated.
Sure.
And same things in audio, right? If you have something that's quieter, you're going to notice other things more. And people can notice detail more readily, oftentimes, if you have a quieter background.
Well, that also proves the point of how sound gets masked by noise.
Yeah.
You know, and again, the brain, like you said, gets used to it. In
Right.
the car, you're driving in a car, there's a noise level, you're accustomed to that. It could be pretty high in trucks and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I get
Yeah.
your Jeep and it's like, oh
Yeah,
my
it's
god,
way different than the car.
Yeah, it's loud.
And even that's a quiet Jeep. The new
Yeah,
ones are pretty
relative
quiet.
to the old ones.
Yeah, you get an 05 or something. Whew.
You can't talk to people.
Yeah, you got to yell on the freeway.
They just had no damping materials. It was just wide open metal in the back, you know, so you heard everything going on. So,
Right.
yeah, so, you know, bottom line is that, yeah, but you get used to it.
Right.
But, yeah, you're turning your stereo up. There's no low level detail in the
No.
stereo. Obviously, you're basically cranking, and it's still a muffled sound because the noise level's so high. So, anyway, we could go on and on about this, but, yeah, I think we've given people enough to chew on in terms of, you know, how ambient noise affects your listening.
It can be severe.
And measurements, of course, which is what we were trying to show
Yeah.
before. But
Well,
yeah,
measurements, it kind of almost matters more because it's
yeah,
you show somebody this number and they
It's
think,
supposed
oh,
to
this is
be
all I need to know. It's supposed to be,
precise.
yeah,
yeah.
it's supposed to be reasonably accurate, but you don't really know the environment it was measured in and whatnot, so it could be problematic in certain
Yeah.
situations.
Yep. So
At least
there
for
you have it.
relative comparison.
Yeah, noise is a bitch. Deal with it.
Mm.
You know,
Well, you got to take into context.
filter it out.
And ideally, stuff your head in like a mattress pillow factory to try to hear what quiet is like. Because if you
Yeah.
get quiet enough, you'll hear your bodily functions readily. You'll hear your heartbeat, and your breathing becomes way more obvious and things like that.
Yeah, if you flip your mattress up against the wall, that's a pretty good filter.
Well, just for that wall though.
Yeah, and then
You
sit,
gotta line
sit
your
right
walls.
against it, back it, and listen to music.
I think we
and
talked
be
about this before.
be
You buy
dead
a lot
behind
of
you.
buy a lot of used mattresses on Craigslist, and you line your walls and your ceiling, your floor.
Staple
with
them to the wall.
Yeah.
it. Screw them into the walls.
Or if you have speakers and you're listening to them, take a pillow and stick it behind your head.
Mm.
And you'll find that it kills the reflections off the rear walls. Sounds totally different because now you're wiping out everything that's hitting the wall behind
Well,
you.
you could just like go like this, right?
You could, yeah. Yeah, except now you hear your skin.
Well,
and
yeah.
This is turning into a shell of skin, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably wild how you could like throw a big pillow behind you, just dampen all the rear room reflections, and just simple things like that is crazy. How you realize how ambient affects your listening, you know. So anyway,
yeah.
enough of that.
Yeah.
We covered the topic.
Did we?
Yeah, we're done for the day.
Huh.
We can go home now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Mm.
Congratulations. $15,000.
No.
We gotta go. Thanks everyone. Thumbs us up. Take care.